Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Sustainable Activism webinar. This is a project of In Defense of Animals, and I run the Sustainable Activism campaign for this organization. My name is Lisa Levinson, and it's really a treat to have all of you here this evening. This is our opportunity to learn some new ways to handle being an animal activist and also having a full life of other things that we do. So I'm really pleased to be able to introduce today. We have Phyllis Levinson, a social change coach with us. You might be able to see her if you're online, and if you're not, you're on the phone, and we will be giving you information so that you can hear us the whole time as we're going along. So I want to share a little bit about a couple announcements and also just about my role here. So I am the technical person, and so if you have any issues with the tech side, if you can't hear, or if for some reason the image is frozen or the slides are not moving, please let us know in the chat box. So if you're online, you're able to chat with everyone, and we'll all be able to also develop community that way. And if you're on the phone, then we will be doing a more of a question and answer towards the end of the webinar, and at that time we'll open up the phone lines as well. So it's really great to have everybody together. And let's see, I also want to just make an announcement. One of like a sister event to this one is our Animal Activist Online Support Group, and that happens on the 4th Thursday of every month. And so this month, on I believe it's June 23rd, we'll be meeting, and it's a great opportunity to kind of have peer support from other activists. And also to talk about, our theme will be life balance for that event as well. And then we do have next week, for anyone who's interested, we have a vegan spirituality online gathering with Richard Schwartz, who just wrote the book, Who Stole My Religion? So it's an effort to look at religion's impact on animal activism. And then for today, we will be, one last resource I want to share with you is our Animal Activist Helpline, which is, it's actually a free counseling service for anybody who wants to receive support from a professional counselor and or animal activists. They're both, and they are available for anybody who would like just a little support, or if you're having some major or minor issues you'd like to speak with a professional about. It's a great resource. So I'll go ahead and put that information on the chat box, and that phone number is 1-800-705-0425. So I'll make sure to add all of that in there. And for now, I'm delighted to be able to introduce Phyllis. So Phyllis, as I just mentioned, the Animal Activist Helpline, and Phyllis is actually one of our helpline counselors, and she's been available to people to have some extra support. And so tonight we get to hear a little more from her. So I'm so glad to introduce her tonight. And I'll read a little bit about her for you, let you know about what she does. So Phyllis Levinson is a life coach for social change advocates. As an animal rights activist, Phyllis is a volunteer counselor for In Defense of Animals, Animal Activist Helpline, and a volunteer district leader for the Humane Society of the United States. She's the author of Life KU 101 Life Coaching Tips, 17 syllables at a time, which is available on Amazon, and you can contact her via her website, which is phyllislevinson.com.
Thank you, everybody. So I'm really happy to be here. Again, thanks for your patience. And what I'm going to talk about is how we can be the advocates we are for animal welfare and animal rights, and do it and take care of ourselves at the same time. Like you, I know the extreme stress of caring so much and advocating on behalf of animals, and we feel that there's so much work to be done, and we need to keep going and keep going and keep going. And it's hard. It's hard not to, when we look at the sheer numbers of animals who are suffering. And when we choose, where do we even begin? Is it farmed animals? Is it companion animals, wildlife? It's enough to make us feel like we need to do this 24/7. But we can't, because we're human and because we're not machines. And we need to take care of ourselves in order to take care of and advocate on behalf of animals for the long run. This is not a sprint, this is a marathon, and we need to stay well while we're doing it for ourselves and for the animals. So what I want to stress tonight, and what I hope you walk away with, is the notion that having a balanced life is the way we can take care of ourselves. And I want to give you a template for how to think about it and how to go forward in taking care of yourself. So I want to just tell you what we're going to cover this evening so you know what's coming. So we're going to talk about the myths and realities of life balance. And then we'll define what I mean by life balance. We're going to talk about how life balance really is related to our values. We're going to put that all together and talk about life balance and how we can handle stress. You're going to take a quiz that only you know the answer to. And then we'll leave some time for questions. So let's get started. So there are three basic myths about life balance. The first one is that it is possible to be in balance every minute of every day. It's just, that's silly, because there's so much that happens in life that we can't control, we didn't anticipate. People get sick, it rains, the traffic, so it's not possible. The second one is there's a simple formula for how to achieve greater balance. If there were a simple formula, I would have patented it a long time ago, and I'd be on the beach somewhere in Tahiti at the moment. So there is no simple formula. There's no one-size-fits-all. And the last myth is that life balance is about time management and efficiency. Now, I'm a great advocate for time management and efficiency, but that is not the same thing as life balance. Life balance is much bigger than that. It's about how we use our energy. It's not just about how we use our time. Time is a little piece of it, but it's where do we put our energy? And we're going to see, how we spend our energy, does that relate to our values? So now let's talk about three realities of what life balance is. The realities are we can't be in two places at the same time. And you see this image of this woman rushing. It's amazing to me how much we still try to do that. We still try to be at our child's school and attend a meeting at work. We just do this all the time. It's multitasking to a higher level. So we need to just say we are human, and that's the best we can do. The next one is you can't control everything in your life. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, this is a picture of a thunderstorm. But there's so much in life we can't control. We can control how we react to it, but this is why we're not in balance 100% of the time. And the third reality is there is no objective standard of balance. It gets back to the one-size-fits-all as a mess. What makes me feel imbalanced may not be what works for you, and vice versa. So what is life balance? We talked about the myth, we talked about the realities. What is life balance? I define it that a balanced life is a life of abundance. And abundance doesn't mean excess. It doesn't necessarily mean a lot of anything. It just means that we feel that our life is full, that we have an abundance or enough of what we need in life. And what are those things? What is abundance? Oh, it includes an abundance of money, because we need to live somewhere and feed ourselves and turn on the lights and put gas in our cars or whatever it is. So it's an abundance of money. It's good health, obviously. It's having love in our lives, and I don't necessarily mean romantic love, although that's lovely, but it's just love of friends and family and our companion animals, and just general a sense of people who care about us. Our families, for many of us, that's important. Friends, the love of friends also. And having a purpose in life. The fact that you're even on this webinar tells me you have a great purpose in life. I think you have an abundance of that one. So if balance is abundance, then imbalance is really scarcity. And that's when we're running on empty. It's when you just feel like you're dragging. You feel like your knuckles are scraping the ground when you're walking. You just feel like you're just running out of steam. You're running out of energy. And here's that word energy again. So when we're in balance, we have the energy because we're living from a place of abundance. So the key question is not, am I doing things right? The key question is, am I doing the right things? We get to choose what those things are. So when we say, am I doing things right, that gets to be a question of right and wrong, or it gets back to the issue of time and efficiency. It's, am I doing things right? And what I'm suggesting is that we start by asking, am I even doing the right thing? The way I answer this, and the way I think of a balanced life, and I'm not the only one, there are other people who have written about this, I think of it as a tree, that each of us is a tree. And we start from the bottom up. So the roots of the tree represent our values. And everything we do comes out from our values, just like the tree grows from its roots. And there are 4 very specific values that are true for all of us. The first value is what I call relational. It's our relationships. And we all have multiple relationships in our lives. It could be a spouse. It could be a child. It could be our parents, friends, colleagues. It's how we maintain our relationships and the role that they play in our lives. The second value is mental. Think of it as intellectual or mental stimulation. We all need to keep our brains and our minds active. And we need both the relational and the mental to live in a balanced way. The third one is spiritual. And by spiritual, I don't mean religious, although it can include religion, and most religions include a spiritual aspect. By spiritual, I mean caring about something outside of ourselves. And again, because you are on this webinar, clearly you all have that in spades. You all care so much about something outside of yourselves, which in this case is non-human animals. And so that's what I mean by spiritual. And again, there are people who are very religious who are not necessarily spiritual in this sense. There are people who are atheists who are very spiritual. There's all sorts of combinations, but this is my definition of spiritual. And the last one, the last root is physical. It's taking care of ourselves physically. And we can do that in many ways. It's eating well, it's exercising, it's taking care of our health from top of our head to our toes. It's our well-being. So everything we do should grow out of these roots to lead a balanced life. These roots also have to be deep enough so that when a good wind comes or a hurricane comes, our tree may tip a little bit. It may bend, but it doesn't break. And that's true of the tree, and that's true of us, because life has some very unpredictable moments and events. Some of them are wonderful, but some of them are very, very difficult. A loved one gets sick, or a loved one dies, or we lose a job, or there's just so many things that happen. And if our roots aren't deep enough, we sometimes might feel broken. And so by keeping our roots deep enough, we can bend, we can sway, but we won't break during those times. One more thing about these roots. All the roots have to be deep enough. Some of them will be deeper than others, and that's okay. It's not that each root has to be a quarter of the tree. That's just not how it works. For someone who is a marathon runner or goes to the gym 2 hours a day, their physical root is probably pretty deep. And it's probably deeper than mine, which is wearing my Fitbit to make sure I get the right number of steps every day. So we're all going to have our different roots, but they're all going to be in these 4 categories. So out of our roots, out of our values, grows our missions. And these are our personal missions in life. If you're a parent, one of your missions, which grows out of the relational root, is taking care of your children. If you're taking care of an aging parent, that would also come out of that. If spending time with your best friend is important to you, that one of the missions would be to walk with my friend once a week. So out of all of this, it grows our missions. And out of these missions is the key. These are our roles in life. And our roles can change over time. So I can be a mother or a daughter. Sometimes people are a husband or wife, and then they're not. Okay, they get divorced. So roles change over time. I'm a career changer. So now I'm a life coach, but I wasn't a life coach 15 years ago. So our roles change, but the roles should be based on the way our tree grew. The problem with talking about life balance in terms of time management and efficiency is it starts with the roles. It starts with the roles as givens. It's how do I get all of this done? And the this are these roles. Some of those roles may not even be roles that we chose or roles that don't work for us anymore. You may have been a volunteer in your community for 5 years, and you just keep that role even though it's not working for you anymore. So by anchoring our life choices in our values, then we get to choose our roles. It's a choice. Some roles are givens. If we're the children of someone. So some roles are given, but other roles are really our choice. I hope this is clear, and I would be happy certainly to talk about it more at the end when we have time for questions. So how do we put this all together? So we have ways to deal with stress and burnout. And here I have do these alone or with other people. And that's very important. Here, I'm going to go to the previous slide. I'm going to go back to our tree of balance slide. Because we don't have to do all these alone. I don't want this to feel like homework and overwhelm, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get those deep roots in relational, mental, spiritual, physical. We can combine these, and we combine these all the time. So taking a walk with a friend is physical and relational, right? Being on this webinar is mental and perhaps relational because we're part of a group right now. Volunteering at an animal shelter or a sanctuary is spiritual, and if you do that with other people, it's spiritual and relational. So you can see how all of these really can be combined. So this isn't overwhelming, it's just deliberate. I always challenge myself, if I walk with a friend to my book group, then that's relational, mental, physical. And if we talk about animals, then we can throw in the spiritual. So you can actually do them all at one time. So when we put this together, and we can do these following stress busters either alone or with other people. And what are these? The first one is meditate. And my guess is that many of you already meditate. I am an avid believer, practicer, of meditation. I can't say enough about it. And I personally do TM, Transcendental Meditation, for years now, but before that I did really a mindfulness meditation, kind of an Eastern Buddhist type meditation, which I'm also a huge fan of. It doesn't matter. It's that in order to feel balanced, we need to feel grounded. We need to be present. And I know that word present gets thrown out around a lot, but it's really true. When we try to meditate, or when my clients, when I have them try to meditate, they will always come back and say, I can't do it. I can't meditate. They go, my mind wanders. And I go, of course your mind wanders. You're human. Everyone's mind wanders. Unless you live in an ashram and meditate for 15 hours a day, none of us can stop our minds from wandering. And that's just based on evolution, because we're always thinking ahead, and we're always learning from the past. So we're always living in the future tense or the past tense for survival purposes. We need to know how to keep ourselves safe in terms of evolution. We need to anticipate needs. We're going to be hungry tomorrow. We're going to need shelter. So this is all, this is normal, but it's okay. And however one meditates, we just come back to the present moment. And the more you meditate, the more benefits you feel. But it works from the first time. I just can't encourage you enough to meditate. Either learn to do it online, or there probably are some meditation courses or places you can go in your community. But if you're not meditating, please give it a try. The next one is to stretch. And I just am a great advocate of stretching. By the way, all of these stress busters I'm going to give you, I'm not including the three obvious ones, which is get enough sleep, eat a healthy diet, and exercise. Okay, I want to give you something beyond those three that I think we all know. So the second one here is stretch. Now, if you're doing yoga, you're done. But for those of us who don't do yoga, I encourage you to stretch only because it really opens up our bodies. And when our bodies are open, we feel more open. Our muscles are looser. We're calmer. I encourage people even to stretch at their desks in the middle of the day. If you don't have a lot of time, I suggest sit in your chair, bend over, hang your head, and stretch your back. Or put your arms out to the side and pretend people are pulling on both arms. Just stretch and open up. It feels good, but it really is very helpful in terms of reducing stress. The next one is my favorite. It's laugh. I am a great advocate of laughing. I love to laugh. I laugh every day. I even laugh during serious moments when, I don't know, sometimes you just have to laugh because if not, who knows? I even recommend to people who don't have a lot of laughter in their lives that they spend time during the week watching, 3 1.5-hour sitcoms. We just have to laugh because so much of life isn't funny. And caring about animals and advocating for animals is serious business. And but we just need to laugh every day. And it could be another person that makes you laugh. You can watch a funny TV show or a movie or a book. My 2 dogs make me laugh multiple times during the day because they're just so funny and silly, and I just laugh. So please laugh. We do know the science tells us that laughing releases the feel-good hormones in our brains, and so it's not just that laughing is fun, but it actually is good for us. The next one is to journal. Now, this is the only one here that you probably will do alone as opposed to with other people, but I love journaling because I call it a mind dump. When we keep things in our head and we don't let them out, they seem to grow. They get bigger and bigger in our heads. And when we journal, we get it out. And somehow it's not as big. And so there is value to journaling by hand. But if you want to journal on your computer, go for it. I actually switched from by hand, even though I recommend it, to journaling on my computer because I can type faster than I can write. But this is for your eyes only. And who cares what you write? No one's grading it. No one cares about the grammar. I know someone who actually journals by hand, but she thinks better in pictures, and she just draws pictures in her journal to express how she's feeling. Who cares? Who cares? The whole point is to get it out, and it really helps you think, and it is a de-stressor. I know so many people don't like journaling, so I encourage people to set a timer for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and when the timer goes off, you're done. So that we don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to, spend a half hour retelling my day. That's not what journaling is. That's keeping a diary. Journaling is how you're feeling. Our next stress buster is be in nature. And many of you probably, if you hike, if you bike, if you spend time outside, great, you're already out there. So many of us live in what I call the built environment. We're always in 4 walls. And we're busy, or just busy. And so being in nature, if you're not a natural hiker or if you're just a weekend outdoors person, well, Monday through Friday is a lot of days not to be in nature. The truth is our thinking and our mindset shifts when we leave the built environment and we're outside. And if you live in a beautiful community, then you've got it made. If you live in a wonderfully exciting city, you can still be in nature. If you're in the middle of Manhattan, you can step outside. You can still see the sky. You can still see a pigeon. Pigeon is nature. Okay. There will be a tree somewhere. And so it's just shifting your perspective. It's getting out of the built environment to the outdoors. The next one is create rituals. And again, I don't mean this in terms of religion, although if that works for you, that's great. But I'm talking about rituals that are soothing. And they don't have to be big deals. You know, a simple ritual can be lighting a candle while you eat dinner. Another ritual could be getting into bed early with a good book and a cup of herbal tea. That could be your evening ritual. Rituals are just very soothing because they become habit and they become a way of life, and we don't really have to think about them. We don't have to really do anything other than perhaps make a cup of tea or light a candle, but they're just very soothing, and they really help keep us stable and balanced. The next one I'm a huge fan of is be creative. I'm such a fan of this one that I've considered adding a fifth root to my tree of life balance, and that one would be creativity. I am such a believer in using creativity to make us feel more stable, more balanced. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be a painter, a singer, a dancer, you just sculptor. You don't have to be any of those things. There is a reason why adult coloring books have become so popular, because they're fun. They take us away. We're dealing with color and picture and image. I personally am a crafter. I love paper. I do paper crafting. I can't draw to save my life. I mean, you see this figure of this person, I couldn't even draw that. I mean, I'm a stick figure artist. But I do love paper crafting. And last year at the holidays, my daughter gave me a coloring book, an adult coloring book. And I always, was a little hesitant about them. I thought, well, that's not very creative. You're just coloring. I couldn't have been more wrong. I have the best time I bought myself actually beautiful colored pencils. Other people use paints, and I use glitter. I mean, I just go to town. Who cares? It's for me. It's for fun. And it's like all of a sudden you realize an hour has passed, and you feel so calm. It works. So these are the stress busters I really suggest, in addition to the obvious ones, the eat well, get enough sleep, and get exercise. So it's all about values. And I hope you're beginning to see how this all connects to your values. It's what is most important to you and who is most important to you. And those are the roles on our tree. And that's based on our values. You get to choose the what, and you get to choose the who. Once you choose those, then ask yourself, do your days reflect your answers? Your weeks? Do your months reflect your answers? If your answer is anything other than yes, absolutely, definitely, then I think you need to go back to your personal tree and see where the disconnect is. So you ask yourself, is your life balanced? And the question is, am I balanced enough? Simple yes or no question, right? If your answer is yes, then keep doing what you're doing because it's working. Good for you. If your answer is no, then you have a second question to ask yourself. Do you want greater balance? It's not a silly question. Some people might say, I don't feel imbalanced, but I I'm not going to do anything about it. So their answer would be a no. Or they don't want greater balance. So if your answer is no, you then keep doing what you're doing. If your answer is yes, then you need to change something. So this is the quiz part, okay? So you can look at this and see, where are you on this? I'm going to leave you with a few things to remember. The first one is you have choices. You have choices because this is based on your values. You have choices. Second one is to live your values, not anyone else's values. This is your values. And the third one is to budget energy, not time. And you keep hearing that word tonight about energy. It isn't about time. Okay, and remember that. Remember that first question of, the right question is not, am I doing things right? Am I doing the right thing? This ties in with that. And Lisa mentioned the book I wrote. And when I was putting this presentation together, this is the haiku that came to mind. My book, Life Coup, it's 101 Life Coaching Tips, 17 syllables at a time, because haiku is 17 syllables. So this one, I thought was very appropriate. It's overwhelmed by life, demands, and obligations. Put self-care on list. So I want you to put self-care on list for your own sake, because you deserve it. You should take care of yourself, but the animals need you. We all need to stay healthy so that we all can keep working until every animal is living how he or she is meant to live. And that's it. I am more than happy to take questions. And so, Lisa?
Yes. Thank you so much, Phyllis. I so enjoyed this presentation. I especially liked that the emphasis wasn't on time management, which is kind of a sore point for me, but also it's really nice to know that it has to do with energy and our values. I think that was really vital and different information for everyone.
Good.
Yeah, so it seems like we have a couple questions. What I'm going to do is open the webinar up to what's called a Q&A mode, so you might hear a little announcement first.
Okay.
Hold on.
So I have a question. I have a really hard time because I work a lot of hours, and my personal time, which also includes working when my downtime is, I'm always advocating and trying to do things, but it tends to overwhelm me. So how could I possibly do time management when the whole time I'm working, I'm also getting messages and text messages and phone calls to do certain things, and then when I'm at events and whatnot, I'm still getting messages to do other events. I mean, it's like I can't spread myself enough to help everybody, but I want to.
Yeah. So your question is a good one, and it's because you sound like you have this huge heart and you want to maximize your time, and I get it, but it's again, it gets back to what I said at the very beginning. You're human, you're not a machine. And if you remember that slide where you can't be in two places at one time, that's the myth of life balance, that you can be in two places at one time. I would encourage you to set some limits for yourself. So when people are texting you, it doesn't mean that you need to respond in that moment. I get text messages all the time, and as a life coach, I'm on the phone with clients. I clearly cannot respond to a text message while I'm coaching. And so I would encourage you to think about that for text messages and for emails, and that you set a scheduled time to go through all of these, and you can respond. And you might want to set the time for 2 or 3 times during the day, so that you never, if something is a little more urgent, that you don't want to let the whole day go by. But that's, I want you to start thinking of that in terms of you have a choice, and I keep using that word choice, because you have a choice of how you respond. You can't choose when other people are going to contact you, but you can choose when you answer them. Does that help?
Okay, hold on a minute. I'm going to unmute Dacia.
Your line is now unmuted.
I actually just responded that I've been putting my work life below my animal save life because I think it's more important for me to help save the animals than it is for me to make money.
Okay. It's echoing again.
I'll do the muting. Got it.
Okay, I understand that, but it goes back to the whole concept of abundance I talked about. And if you remember, money was one of those things. So I am the last person in the world who, encourages people to work for money, just for inherent value of money. But we all need to live. And we want you to keep your job, and we want you to earn a living, so that you are better able to focus on helping the animals when you have the time to do that. I totally understand. I could sit at my desk all day, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, doing nothing but writing letters and emails and signing petitions and volunteering and going to a shelter. But for those of us who aren't fortunate enough to have that be our full-time job, we need to take care of ourselves. I want you to think about it in terms of when you're in an airplane and when they give the instructions and they say that, in the case of a problem, the oxygen masks will drop. And if you are traveling with a child, put your oxygen mask on first before you put the oxygen mask on your child, which is very counterintuitive for those of us who are parents. You would always put it on your child first. But what the message is, you need to breathe so that you can help your child breathe. And it really is the same thing. So I understand you have obviously a big, big heart, but we need you to keep your job, and we need you to carve out time for animals.
Thank you so much. And maybe, Dacia, I don't know if you want to.
Your line is now unmuted.
Respond.
Well, thank you guys so much for everything, because everything you just said really resonated with how I've been articulating how I manage my time and all the messages that I get. And it's very true. That's a great analogy that you used. And I really thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I need to step back for just a couple minutes. I love you guys. I love you guys so much. You are in my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Dacia. I'm going to mute you just so that we can hear without the echo, but thank you so much for speaking from your heart and for being receptive to this information, because this is what will keep the animal rights movement really resilient and sustainable and a powerful movement where we can keep on continuing to help the animals. And I wanted to address a couple of questions that are in the chat box for you, Phyllis. So one of them is from Madhu, and this person is sharing that they've taken on a lot more responsibilities with taking care of animals that they can handle, and feel mentally exhausted, but they can't leave the responsibilities halfway, and love doing it, but are running out of energy. I think this is a real classic scenario of what happens with animals and with activists. So we continue to get a call about another animal. Can you help me? Can you help rescue this animal? Can you? And then what to do?
Yes, this is a great question. Thank you for asking this one. You know, again, you have this huge heart, and I thank you so much, but we need you to stay well. We need you to live a more balanced life, because we need you to resupply your energy. So the slide that showed that if balance is abundance, then imbalance is scarcity. And right now, you're running on scarcity. It would be expecting your car to run without filling it up with gasoline. It's the exact same thing. And you are not a machine. You're not a robot. So what we need is for you to take care of yourself so that you can help animals in the long run. And right now, if you have taken on more responsibility than you can handle, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that, you know, you're human. I always say to people, welcome to the human race. I mean, you know, that we are human, and we have our limits. And so I would encourage you to think about talking to someone about this, to see if there is some way you can have someone else or others share in what these responsibilities are. So to lighten your load now, so that you can replenish some of your energy, so that we have you around helping those animals a year from now, and 2 years from now, and 5 years from now. And so it's not being selfish. It's not a failure. It's actually you're too much of a success. And and so we need you to be a little less successful, and you need to bring in other people to share with you. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. If you have a lot of animals in your care, to actually ask a friend or ask someone who also cares about animals to help you. They can come in, they can, if you're doing cat rescue or TNR, they can help you with, cleaning the cages and doing the litter and all the things. I think it's really, sometimes we imagine that we must do everything ourselves, and yet other people would really enjoy helping us. And then you can feel a little more relaxed about what you're doing and feel supported as well, which is also so important.
And you can say no. You can say no. That gets back to what I was talking about earlier. One of the things I wanted you to remember and leave you with is you have a choice. You have a choice. And, you know, it's all the examples Lisa just gave, or fostering dogs or cats, or you have a choice. You can say no, and that's okay. It's not selfish. I like the word soulful, like soulful, okay? You know, we think in terms of selfish or selfless, and I would like to propose a middle ground. I made up the word. I don't think it's a real word, but soulful. And it's okay to be full of yourself and take care of yourself. So, and again, so you can go. We can have you around for the long term, helping animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good point. There's another related question that I'd like to pose that I think Heather mentioned on the chat box as well. It's just what happens when you run out of energy because you overcommit yourself and end up sick and depressed. So balance is really, really important. And she wasn't able to help anyone because she became unbalanced.
Yeah, and you know, I'm so sorry to hear that. And you know, it's, you learn from that. You learn from that. You learn what happens when we let ourselves, and I think we all know what that feels like, you know, when we let ourselves get too out of balance. We know when we are out of balance. We know how we feel. And as you said, depressed and sick, and this is what we're trying to avoid.
Mm. One thing I find really helpful is sometimes I think, oh, I'm the only one who can do this. Like, I'm the only one who can take care of this particular cat or rescue this dog or care for this other living being in this certain way. When we allow the possibility that someone else could step in and do that, perhaps that other person has more time, more and more ability to do that, more resources than I do.
Yeah.
It may be like a win-win. When I say, no, I can't do this, someone else who has always wanted to help animals or do something like that will have an opportunity to do it. And so I think it's another way to look at something. I know I have felt in the past, oh, I'm afraid if I don't do this, no one will step up and do it.
Right.
And so I used to run for many years a toad detour, and I thought, if I'm not out here every single night, these toads are going to die. So what happened is I set up a large volunteer crew, and we had really hundreds of people who stepped up, who said they would help. And even on a particular night when I wasn't able to be in charge, there were other people who stepped up and said, you know what, I'll do Wednesday night for you. I'm like, wow, that's great. If I hadn't said that and told them, then I would have been out there just every single night and eventually been too drained to help the toads. So
yes, that's a great example. That's a terrific example. Other than special needs animals, if you think about it, what's the bottom line that we all want, whether we're human animals or non-human animals? The bottom line is we want to be loved, we want to feel safe, we want to be cared for, we want our needs met. And no two people are going to do that in the exact same way, but that's okay. No two people love us in the exact same way, and we don't love our close friends and family in the same way. And there's lots of different ways to do this, but all that really matters is the end goal, is keeping animals safe and loved and well cared for. So we can spread the wealth.
Yeah, and also I think that Heather had mentioned that sometimes our standards are too high and our expectations are great for ourselves. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes, we feel like we have to be perfect. And here is a secret, guys. There is no such thing as perfect. It doesn't exist. We are human beings doing our very, very best, but perfect doesn't exist. It only exists in Mother Nature. I think Mother Nature is pretty darn perfect until humans mess around. But other than that, we just do our best, and hopefully we have more wins than losses, but we do our best.
And another, perhaps our last question here is, what do you do when you're feeling frustrated because this is from Paula, that the animal suffering and the heartache that it causes to rescuers, because, for example, some people in the animal rescue community are also animal rights activists, whereas others are not, and then there's kind of a conflict in there because the folks who are doing this amazing work to help the kitties are also engaging in activities that cause suffering to other animals. So how
are they causing suffering to other animals? I guess
if they're in this particular example, if the other folks are not vegan, maybe they're participating in some of the suffering going on in other ways.
This is another good question. I so understand that feeling of anger and frustration. I mean, I get that. You know, it's the people who say that they're animal lovers, but what they really mean is they're cat and dog lovers, maybe horse lovers, but then they sit down to, you know, a steak dinner, and so let me tell you how I think it's best to think about this, and I hope this helps. It's my feeling is that anything anyone does to help an animal is a positive. And if we help more than an animal, that's a double positive. But I'd rather have someone help our companion animals, our cats and dogs, than not help our companion animals. So if that's my choice, that it's got to be, they have to be all in or not in at all, that's not, I don't see that as how the animals benefit. Some of us care about all animals, you know, from elephants to cows to cats to birds to fish. And some people, that's not their thing. Even if we wish it were their thing, it's not. So let them do their thing, because their thing is still positive, and we'll continue to do our work. I hope that makes sense. I still want to lose anyone who helps any animal or any group of animals. We need everyone, because there's just so much work to be done.
Thank you, Phyllis. That is so well said. I really appreciate that, because it keeps a positive framework on everyone who's helping the animals, and also to recognize that people are all at different stages along their journey. You know, some people may be involved in the cat rescue community, and over time they could become vegan. There's a wonderful video by Tribe of Heart called The Witness about a gentleman who he saved a cat, and from there, that experience teaches him about the fur industry, and then he learned about the vegan advocacy as well. But it took one step at a time for him to really get the picture, the whole picture. And I think each person may be at a different step in their journey, and it may be, as Phyllis said, it might not be their thing. But appreciating what they are doing and really being, I guess, seeing the glass is half full in a way, like, wow, but they are really helping the animals in this way.
Yes. Yes, because they are. They're not helping cows, but they're helping cats and dogs, or whatever it may be. There's, you know, the bad news is that there's so much work to be done on behalf of animals. And so that's why, you know, the good news is that there are people who want to help different animals. And so, you know, my feeling is let's grab onto them.
So this, in a way, we're having a little dialogue in the chat box here about how to advocate against activists that eat animals. I think part of what, you know, Phyllis is saying is really, if we embrace activists for where they're at and see them on this journey, and then continue to be ourselves around everyone, you know, it will. What I mean by that is to honor your own values and your own choices, and to share from your own heart your experiences. Then that could have an impact on the people around us if we're very involved in that. I was pretty heavily involved in the cat rescue world, and some of the other gals that I work with, they noticed that I was vegan, and they said, "Oh, I would love to be vegan," or I'm getting there, or I'm vegan at heart, and they're working on it. But they started to recognize that that was another form of activism, of helping animals, and you know, just planting, as they say, planting seeds. Yeah, that makes a difference too. So, one thing I would like to mention, Dacia mentioned on the chat box, there's something called that at many different events that relate to animals, like adoption events or fundraising events, sometimes the organization will serve animals at those events. Now, there is a program to change that, and it's called Food for Thought. And if you look that up online, I think I might be able to just write the name of it here. But that is a great program because that provides resources for people who would like to approach an organization and say, since we are trying to save animals, let's at least have our meal be cruelty-free. So there are definitely ways to help organizations make that change.
For sure.
So I'm putting that in here. So yeah, it's such a great conversation with everyone. I really, really appreciate the interactions in the chat box, and it's one of the nice things about doing the webinars. And I especially would like to thank Phyllis for sharing all of your insights with us and your unique perspective. I think that's what's so helpful, how to look at life balance and shift out of that time management framework into really looking at life balance as energy. And I think it was just so helpful, your image that you brought to us today about the tree and having those deep roots in our values. That kind of feels good to me, to know that we're really grounded in our values. And I think that's a nice thing, even to, if you want to share about your choices, that those values are your roots and that they keep you connected to the earth, which is another good thing. So I know there's so many more questions to address, but I also want to respect everyone's time and Phyllis's time. So I wanted to thank everyone for joining us tonight. It's been really a pleasure. And to let folks know if anybody's interested in attending our Vegan Spirituality online gathering, which the spirituality is really very similar to Phyllis's definition, not necessarily religious. That will be next week at the same time. And then on the fourth Thursday of the month, we'll have our Animal Activist online support group, which is a similar format, and we will address life balance as our theme there, so we'll be able to continue with this conversation. So all the wonderful things that are happening in the chat box, we can bring that to life on the 23rd of June. So, so thanks to everyone for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yay. And feel free to reach out to Phyllis if you have questions. I will send everybody a replay link, and you can access Phyllis from her website, which is her name, which is phyllislevinson.com. And actually, we have a similar last name, but we're not related. But it's so a treat to work together. And last reminder, if you're having one of those days or feeling frustrated with your interactions with somebody, feel free to call the Animal Activist support line. That's what it's there for. And I'll put the little website on here, helpline. And that way you can find the information. But for those who are on the phone, the number is 1-800-705-0425. So again, thanks to everybody for joining us this evening. I'll go ahead and do a little unmuting so that if anyone wants to say goodbye, we can do that all together.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.